My name is Mabel York. I'm 33 years old, and I work in logistics operations. Most people hear that and imagine spreadsheets, warehouses, and men in reflective vests yelling over forklift noise. They're not wrong. My job revolves around distribution systems for mid-size companies: routing, inventory flow, vendor coordination, emergency shipment failures at impossible hours. It isn't glamorous work. Nobody makes movies about women optimizing freight schedules at midnight. But if you're good at it, really good, people rely on you more than they realize. I spent 6 years at my previous company. Started at the bottom as a floor coordinator, learning how to solve problems before they became disasters. By the time I left, I was operations manager, overseeing 22 employees and nearly $5 million in annual distribution contracts. And I left on perfect terms. That detail matters more than anything, because someone later tried to convince my new employer I was a thief. 3 months before everything exploded, another company recruited me for a senior operations director role. Bigger team, better title, equity options after 2 years. Salary jumped from $87,000 to $118,000 overnight. It was the kind of offer you don't reject unless fear makes your decisions for you. My old company didn't resent me for leaving. Actually, they celebrated it. My VP of operations shook my hand and told me he would have taken the same deal himself. The CEO wrote me a personal recommendation letter, 2 full pages on company letterhead about my leadership, my reliability, the warehouse systems I built from scratch. At my goodbye party, he handed it to me in a frame. There was cake, a steakhouse gift card, half my department taking photos with me near the loading docks. I remember standing there thinking maybe adulthood finally felt stable. I was wrong. My ex-boyfriend Ryan and I had broken up about 4 months earlier. We'd been together for 2 years. The breakup wasn't explosive at first. Honestly, if someone had asked me 6 months before, I probably would have described him as attentive, protective, serious about me. That's the dangerous kind of controlling behavior, the kind that disguises itself as love until it slowly starts suffocating you. Ryan checked my phone while I showered. He asked why male coworkers reacted to my LinkedIn posts. He got irritated if I attended happy hour events without him. Then he wanted access to my work calendar for safety reasons. Soon he started showing up at my office unexpectedly with coffee and lunch. To everyone else, it looked romantic. To me, it started feeling like surveillance. The moment everything finally snapped happened on a Tuesday night. One of my direct reports, a man named Carlos who had worked under me for years, texted me around 7 p.m. about emergency shift coverage. Completely normal. 10 minutes later, Ryan somehow got Carlos's number and called him directly. The next morning, Carlos came into my office looking horrified. "Do you want me to stop texting after work hours?" he asked carefully. "Because your boyfriend sounded upset." Humiliation burned through me so fast, I couldn't even answer immediately. That was the moment I realized the relationship wasn't salvageable. I broke up with Ryan that weekend. I told him calmly that his behavior had become controlling and invasive, that I wasn't happy anymore, that I was done. He cried first, then yelled, then accused me of cheating. I wasn't. He said I was throwing away 2 years for nothing. I remember looking at him across the apartment thinking, no, I'm throwing away 2 years because I finally understand what they actually were. I moved out over one weekend and blocked his number shortly after. At least, I tried to. For a while, he sent long, emotional messages from different numbers, some apologizing, some furious, some promising I'd regret leaving him. I ignored all of them. I honestly thought time would fix it. Then, 3 weeks into my new job, my boss asked me to stay behind after a meeting. His name was Daniel Mercer, the COO. Sharp mind, calm voice, the kind of man who could look at one broken process and immediately understand where the entire system failed. The meeting itself had gone great. We'd been discussing inventory restructuring. I was feeling confident for the first time since the transition. Then everyone else left the conference room. Daniel folded his hands together and looked directly at me. "Mabel," he said carefully, "I need you to answer something honestly." Instantly, my stomach tightened. "Of course." "This morning I received a phone call from someone claiming to be a former colleague of yours." The room suddenly felt too bright. "He stated that you were terminated from your previous company for stealing inventory and misappropriating funds." For one second, I genuinely thought I misheard him. "He said the company let you resign quietly to avoid scandal." My pulse slammed against my ribs. "That's completely false," I said immediately. Daniel studied my face. "I assumed there was another side to the story, but I need documentation. You'll have it within the hour." I walked back to my office on pure adrenaline. The second I shut the door, my phone buzzed. And somehow, before I even looked at the screen, I already knew. "Ryan, I told your new boss you got fired for stealing. Good luck with that." A smiling emoji. I actually laughed once when I saw it. Not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process that level of stupidity fast enough. He had confessed. In writing. I stared at the text for maybe 15 seconds before replying with only 3 words. Interesting strategy. Then I got to work. First, screenshots, multiple backups, email, cloud storage, personal drive. Years in logistics teaches you one important thing. If something matters, you never keep only one copy. Then I pulled out the framed recommendation letter from my previous CEO. I had brought it with me because I'd been proud of it. Now it was evidence. I photographed every page carefully. After that, I drafted an email to Daniel. Professional. Precise. No emotional language. I attached the recommendation letter, screenshots of Ryan's confession text, and a brief explanation that the caller was my former boyfriend engaging in harassment after our breakup. Then I offered direct HR contacts from my old company for immediate verification. I hit send and walked straight into Daniel's office. "I sent the documentation," I said steadily. "The person who contacted you is my ex-boyfriend. I ended the relationship 4 months ago. He has a history of interfering in my professional life." Daniel opened the email while I stood there. His eyes moved slowly between the recommendation letter and Ryan's text. Then he removed his glasses. "He sent you a smiley face?" "Yes." "After accusing you of theft to your employer?" "Yes." Daniel leaned back in his chair, visibly stunned. "And he thought texting evidence to you was smart?" "Apparently." A long silence followed. Finally, Daniel shook his head slowly. "I'll verify your employment independently," he said. "That's procedure. But between this letter and that message, I already know what this looks like." Relief hit me so suddenly, it almost made me dizzy. Then he added something I wasn't expecting. "I'm forwarding this to legal." I blinked. Legal? "Mabel, someone deliberately contacted a company executive and made false criminal accusations against one of our employees. That's not personal drama anymore. That's corporate liability." And suddenly the situation felt much bigger than one bitter ex-boyfriend trying to hurt me. Ryan thought he was attacking my reputation. What he actually did was create a legal problem for an entire corporation. And corporations don't react emotionally. They react systematically. That realization sat cold and heavy in my chest as I walked back toward my office. Because for the first time since the breakup, I had the terrifying feeling that Ryan still had no idea how badly he'd just destroyed his own life. The next morning, I barely slept. Every time I drifted off, my brain replayed the same sentence over and over. You were terminated for stealing. It didn't matter that it was false. That's the terrifying thing about accusations like that. Your mind still treats them like poison once they enter the room. I arrived at the office before 7 with coffee I never drank and a headache sitting directly behind my eyes. At 8:12 a.m., Daniel emailed me. Please stop by my office when you arrive. My stomach dropped all over again. When I walked in, he motioned for me to sit. We verified your employment history, he said immediately. Your record is spotless. I exhaled slowly. Daniel continued. Your former employer confirmed you resigned voluntarily, no disciplinary history, no investigations, no concerns whatsoever. He paused briefly before adding, your previous VP of operations also told our HR director they tried to keep you. Something inside my chest loosened for the first time in 2 days. Then Daniel slid a folder across the desk toward me. Our legal department reviewed the situation last night. I looked down at the folder, but didn't touch it yet. They documented the phone call, the time it came in, and the statements made, he explained. Based on state law, knowingly false accusations of criminal conduct can qualify as defamation per se. I stared at him. Meaning? Meaning the accusation itself is considered inherently damaging. The person making it doesn't get to argue that no real harm occurred. The room went quiet. I think part of me still expected this to somehow shrink back into ordinary breakup drama. But it wasn't ordinary anymore. Ryan had crossed into something official. Something documented. Something expensive. Daniel leaned back slightly. Our legal team has prepared a preservation file. If you decide to pursue legal action personally, the company will cooperate fully. Personally? They're also discussing whether the company itself should issue a cease and desist. That part shocked me more than anything else. I hadn't realized corporations took this kind of thing seriously. But Daniel explained it simply. When someone contacts a company executive to spread false criminal allegations about an employee, they create liability, waste company resources, and potentially interfere with employment relationships. Businesses don't like that. I left his office feeling emotionally numb, half relieved, half horrified, because Ryan still thought this was revenge between exes. Meanwhile, lawyers were building files with timestamps. That afternoon, I called an employment attorney recommended by an old college friend. Her name was Cynthia Hale. Sharp. Direct. Mid-40s. The kind of woman who looked at problems like they were puzzles already halfway solved. I showed her everything. The text confession. The recommendation letter. The HR verification. The details about Ryan contacting my direct report during our relationship. Cynthia read the screenshot twice. Then she looked up at me. He included an emoji? Yes. She blinked slowly. I've practiced employment law for 14 years, and I genuinely don't think I've ever seen someone confess this cleanly. For the first time all week, I almost smiled. Almost. She explained my options carefully. Minimum response, cease and desist letter. Formal warning. Demand he stop contacting me, my employer, or anyone connected to my professional life. Beyond that, I could pursue a full defamation lawsuit. In this state, Cynthia explained, false accusations involving theft are especially serious because they directly attack employability. I folded my arms tightly. What would a lawsuit cost? Realistically, $5,000 to $10,000 minimum. I winced. She noticed immediately. But honestly, she added, I doubt we'll need to go that far. Most people panic once lawyers become real. The cease and desist was drafted the next day. 3 pages. Cold.
Precise.
Absolutely devastating. Then Ryan made the mistake that turned a bad situation into a catastrophic one. 4 days after the original phone call, someone created a fake email account and sent a message to my company's public inbox. The subject line read, "Concern regarding employee conduct." The email claimed I had a history of inappropriate behavior with male employees and that my former company had hidden complaints to avoid scandal. When HR forwarded it to legal, they noticed something immediately. The writing style matched the phone call almost perfectly. Same phrases, same emotional tone, same oddly dramatic wording. And then IT traced the metadata attached to the email header. Not movie-style hacking. Nothing sophisticated. Just basic information showing the IP region matched Ryan's residential area. Legal added the second incident directly into the file. By then, Cynthia was furious. Your ex-boyfriend is digging his own grave with industrial equipment, she told me over the phone. That same evening, Ryan received the cease and desist letter by certified mail and immediately violated it. He texted me from another number. You're seriously threatening me with lawyers right now? I told the truth about what kind of person you are. I screenshot it, forwarded it to Cynthia. Didn't reply. Then his sister called me. Lauren. I'd met her maybe 5 times during holidays. She had the exhausted energy of someone who spent her life cleaning up other people's disasters. What the hell is happening? She demanded immediately. Ryan's crying because some attorney sent him legal papers. I stayed calm. Your brother contacted my employer and falsely accused me of theft. He was upset. Being upset doesn't legally authorize defamation. Long silence. Then she lowered her voice slightly. You don't need lawyers involved. I actually laughed quietly at that. Lauren, your brother called my boss and accused me of criminal conduct. Then he emailed my company fake allegations from a fabricated account. He heard things. From who? I interrupted immediately. I left my previous company voluntarily. They threw me a goodbye party. Their CEO wrote me a recommendation letter. Silence again. Heavy silence. Finally, she muttered, He's having a hard time. I closed my eyes briefly. He tried to damage my career because I ended a relationship. You really want to ruin his life over this? That question stayed with me. Not because it changed my mind. Because it revealed how differently people interpret consequences. Ryan tried to ruin my livelihood. But somehow, me responding legally was the cruel part. I want him to stop, I said quietly. That's all the cease and desist says. Stop contacting me. Stop contacting my employer. Stop making false statements. Lauren didn't answer. A few seconds later, she hung up. I thought maybe that would finally end things. Instead, the next night, Ryan's mother messaged me on Facebook. You should be ashamed of yourself. My son loved you, and this is how you repay him? Real women don't sue men because of hurt feelings. I stared at the message in disbelief. Then came the final line. Drop this immediately or our family will take action. I screenshotted it, forwarded it to Cynthia. Her reply arrived 2 minutes later. They are making this unbelievably easy. And that was the moment I realized something important. Ryan still believed emotion could overpower documentation. But once lawyers enter a situation, feelings stop mattering. Evidence becomes everything. And unfortunately for him, he kept creating more of it. After Ryan's mother sent the Facebook message, everything suddenly went quiet. No calls. No fake emails. No surprise numbers texting me at midnight. At first, the silence felt suspicious. Then Cynthia called me 6 days later and explained why. Ryan hired a lawyer. I leaned back slowly in my office chair. And apparently, his lawyer nearly had a heart attack after reviewing the evidence. For the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. 2 days later, Cynthia received a call from Ryan's attorney. Professional. Careful. Tired. According to Cynthia, the conversation became uncomfortable very quickly once the screenshots entered discussion. Especially the smiling emoji. Ryan's attorney tried arguing that his client had simply been emotional after the breakup and believed the information was true. Cynthia shut that down immediately. She texted my client admitting she personally contacted the employer and fabricated theft allegations, Cynthia said. Then she continued contacting the company through false email accounts. After that, the tone of negotiations changed completely. Ryan's lawyer asked what I wanted. Honestly, I wanted peace. But legally, peace required paperwork. Cynthia demanded 3 things. A formal written retraction sent directly to my employer. A legally binding no-contact agreement. And reimbursement for all legal fees. Ryan agreed to everything except the retraction. Apparently, he thought admitting he lied would be too humiliating. When Cynthia told me that over the phone, I laughed so hard I nearly cried. He wasn't too humiliated to accuse me of theft, I said. Exactly my response, Cynthia replied. The retraction stayed non-negotiable. And eventually, Ryan folded. 3 days later, my company received an official signed letter stating the accusations against me were false and had no factual basis whatsoever. HR placed the letter directly into my employee file. Then came the no-contact agreement. If Ryan contacted me, my employer, or any professional associate again, directly or indirectly, he would automatically owe a $10,000 penalty. He signed it. Without argument. He also reimbursed my legal fees. $3,400. The check cleared 5 business days later. After everything finalized, Daniel called me into his office one last time. The retraction letter sat printed neatly on his desk. I want you to understand something, Mabel, he said calmly. This situation never damaged your reputation here. I stayed quiet. The way you handled this, organized, professional, documented, that told me more about your leadership than 6 months of normal work ever could. Something inside me cracked a little at that. Because for weeks, I had secretly feared the opposite. Feared that somewhere deep down, people would always remember the accusation first. Daniel looked at the file again before continuing. Most people panic under pressure. You treated it like an operational failure. You identified the threat, preserved evidence, and solved the problem systematically. It was probably the best professional compliment I'd ever received. Ironically, the worst thing Ryan tried to do to me became proof I belonged in the role. I later heard through mutual acquaintances that the fallout on his side wasn't pretty. His sister told people he had signed some legal paper admitting he lied. Friends distanced themselves. Even his father reportedly refused to help pay the legal reimbursement after hearing the full story. But honestly, none of that felt satisfying. Just sad. Because once upon a time, Ryan was someone I trusted enough to fall asleep beside. And now, his signature sat under a legal agreement promising to stay away from me forever. That changes how you remember a person. I'm 4 months into my new job now. My first quarterly review came back, exceeds expectations. Daniel specifically noted my composure under pressure. I'll take that. But the truth is, The worst part was never the accusation itself. It was the doubt. For a few terrible days, someone else's lie made me question the stability of my own life. That's what defamation really steals from people. Not money.
Certainty.
I'm getting mine back slowly, day by day. And somewhere in Ryan's apartment is a canceled $3,400 check, reminding him that revenge feels very different once lawyers start printing documents.